I'm Vanessa. I've been going to the center since I was in my mom's stomach.
The Center for Spiritual Living, to me, is my home.
It's my whole life.
I like the center because I love going to family camp every summer and jumping off the rocks and going in the craft shack and all that fun stuff.
Hi, I'm Ken McCauley, and what I love about the center is the education courses.
I love the education program.
It's my teacher, it's my comfort. I learn more by participating in all the things that they have to offer, and just walking in the door. My stress level goes down, and it's comfort.
Yeah, it keeps me grounded.
And I like going on Christmas because I like the lighting candles.
And the opportunity to learn how to see life differently.
And then I really like Thanksgiving when you write yourself the note and then get it a year later. And I just like everyone around because everyone knows each other and stuff.
It just awakens my spirit.
And it's home, and it's where I've learned to grow.
Most importantly, I learned how to be a kinder, gentler person. And for that, I love the center.
Well, is nobody going to say it? Seriously. As you heard from our president this morning, this is the third week of our theme, The Power of Personal Storytelling, coinciding with our Giving Intention collection program, where we hear from you how much you're planning on supporting the center next year. It's really a good matching of topics. The power of personal storytelling is in the power of word of mouth. That's what it is. And that's how these videos came into being. That's how they were born. We asked people to tell the story of what they love about the Center for Spiritual Living. It's been so moving to collect the images and put them together and hear what it is that people feel is of value at the Center for Spiritual Living. The thing about storytelling and the power of word of mouth is that you and I are far more deeply and thoroughly moved by what the people say than by any advertisement or by any announcement by an official. I mean, when we hear the people say something, it goes straight in, and we have a high degree of recognition. That's why in the movie industry, word of mouth is far more valuable than any other form of advertising. So when we hear from each other, we take that to be authentic and true. Last week we had a visitor from out of state from a different church tradition, and he came and he heard the whole spiel about giving intention, and he came to me afterwards and he said, nice, but you guys really play it down. He said, it's not like that in my church. He said, oh no, it's in your face. I went, okay. He said, and not only that, if you're a member and you don't give, at the end of the year, you get a bill. And it's very clearly marked, bill. And I said, oh, no, we don't do that. Oh, we don't do that. No, that wouldn't work here. What we do instead is we ask people to contribute on a level that is comfortable for them, and we ask them to disclose each year, round about now, how much they intend to give the following year. And we invite people to really think about the place of value that the center holds for them in their lives. So I can imagine the question is something like this. I'm going to measure the value of the center next to other important services that I pay for. And so then if the center is as important to me as my gym membership, then how much does that mean I would be contributing weekly? A while ago, I had quite a mysterious health challenge. It's very odd. Couldn't get figured out. And it was eventually referred to a non-conventional specialist outside of every system and outside of every insurance, And I went there to go and figure out if I was going to employ the services of this professional. But the price for the service was so very high that it stopped me. I didn't go. So I was talking to my practitioner about it. Now, you know what a practitioner is. In our culture, a practitioner is paid service by a professional who's learned how to listen, pray, identify hidden beliefs, and speak to them. It's our form of spiritual coaching. That's how we get our one-on-one heart-opening guidance. And their training, it puts them in a position to see into our hearts, anyway. So I'm complaining to my practitioner about the high cost of alternative medicine, and he says, I've got to just stop you there for a moment. I need to remind you that you've got a system of misguided values moving you. So they're operating you. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, I know for a fact that you would spend that much for a new laptop. He says, and the fact that you wouldn't pay that for your health and well-being, it tells me something about what you value most. Whew. Ouch. Well, that's what practitioners are for, because we can't see our own blocks and blind spots. Help sort out the value system. Whew. A man a while ago came and told me his story of the center, and he said, my story is that the center literally saved my life. Because in coming here over the years, the message opened this hope in me, and it reconnected me to my creativity, and it literally gave me the wherewithal to stay on the planet at a time when it was tenuous. Whew. And he said it wasn't until one of these annual giving intention programs came along with the question, how much do you value the center, that I actually realized what this place was worth to my existence. And he tells me, at the time I was struggling financially because I'd been depressed for so long. And that's how I rationalized that I wasn't giving, or that I wasn't willing to commit to give. But, he tells me, I noticed that at the same time, I was still able to afford a pack of cigarettes a week and splurge on fancy coffee now and then for me. So I had to sit myself down, he told me, and give myself the talking to. I'm glad he did it because I didn't want to do it, right? And I asked myself, is the center at least worth about as much as a pack of cigarettes cost? And a cup of coffee now and then. But more importantly, how would my life be if it hadn't been here? So he started, by his own instigation, to give $1 a week. But he started deep in the practice because he wrote it down. He wrote it down on an intention. He put it in an envelope. He put his name, and he said to me that what he got out of that, the pride of participation. He said it changed everything for him. Priceless. By the way, keep in mind, when I tell these stories, I disguise the people by changing gender and times and dates and randomizing and mixing elements. So if you think I'm talking about you, I probably am. So how do you know how much something is worth to you? Well, one measure is how many dollars you're willing to fork over for it. So, some trivia for you. Standing room only in the World Series game. Can't see nothing, just can't stand. On the internet, yeah, somebody knows you've been shopping, $500 to $600. Yeah. Oh, more by this afternoon. Yeah. Kansas City, the average current price yesterday for a potential Game 7, $1,917.83. That's reported in the Kansas City Star. But maybe you want to sit behind home plate here in San Francisco. Maybe. Much more. 8. 8.5 yesterday. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the games. I still don't quite know what's going on. Oh, but the thrill of being in the crowd and the roar and the witnessing of the excitement and the unity. Ooh, I don't underestimate the value and place that these games have in our society today. It is like a pressure release system. So important. It's fabulous. It's healthy. It's beautiful. I love it. And my hope is that the center contributes at least something of value in life that is worth supporting lavishly. See, my personal story of coming to the center is one of worth, because it's at the center that I learned that it's possible to go beyond the limits of my conditioning that I received from my family of origin and my culture and my country of origin. That's priceless. Last week a man came and spoke to me, and he told me, that he had had a very rough childhood. And that was an understatement after I heard his story. It was an understatement. He was given away as a child and put in the line of danger and ripped from school to school, didn't know who his family was and was, the story he told. But he wasn't telling me the story from the perspective of being victimized by it, although I would have agreed with him that he was. He said no, because in coming to the center, he learned something. Because at the center, he met all kinds of people. He said, I've met people who've been born into the right circumstances with all of the right money and support and resources and still ended up in jail. And I've met people who grew up in the worst circumstances and still ended up leaders. And so he said, so I learned that no matter how damaged or affected I can be from the facts of life, I can still somehow rise above the limitations of my conditioning and thrive one way or another. And I thought to myself, that's priceless. And last week, one lady came and said to me, when I heard you say that phrase, that famous phrase, there is a power in the universe for good, and you can use it to bring more life and more joy and more beauty and direction into your life. She said, I knew I needed to hear that often because I need to remember it, because it gives me something to hold on to and hope. It reconnects me to what I believe, and I thought, that's priceless. Those were the words of our founder. In his 1930s radio show, it was called This Thing Called Life, and every week over a bed of organ music, he would say, there is a power for good in the universe, and you can use it, And he was challenging the people in that time and us today, challenging us to consider that our own thinking is our very own personal use of the creative power of the universe, and to consider that although we may very well be products of our conditioning and families of origin and governments and so on, we can rise above it. Priceless. This week's chapter in the book that is assigned for the month, The Power of Personal Storytelling, the author talks about how in the first 10 to 20 years of our lives, we are the most vulnerable because we are the most impressionable, because those ideas from our family of origin, the environment around us, we are exposed to that and we're steeped in it. Those are the ideas that have the most influence over us and form us and shape our perception of everything. In fact, he has a very humorous quote on the sidebar. It goes like this: anybody who has survived his childhood has enough information about life to last him the rest of his days. Right? You know what he's talking about, right? And whereas he's talking about in the sense of these formative years being a rich reservoir for creative expression from which to create your stories, your art, your life. You know, some people experience those formative years as a prison, confining them over time, restricting them, limiting. And other people in places just like this learn to escape that prison. That's why I love what Ken McCauley said on the video. That was so beautiful. He said, at the Center for Spiritual Living is where I learned to see life differently. And then he said so beautifully, I learned how to be a kinder, gentler person. And for that, I love the center, he said. Every time I hear that, I get goosebumps. To discover that you can become the person you've always wanted to be. You can. One of the classes that we teach at the center, the students are invited to give appreciation to each other, to say what they appreciate about each other. It's a beautiful experience. And at the end, we talk about it. And I ask the students, and tell me, above all the enjoyment, was there anything that you didn't hear that you wished had been said? Because sometimes the way people see us doesn't match how we wish to be seen. And what we learn here is that you're not stuck there. You don't have to be stuck there. You don't have to be stuck there. Because if the way people see you doesn't match the way you wish to be seen, you can do something about it using the power of your own mind, which is your own personal use of the creative force of the universe. For example, I was taught, think about how you wish to be seen. How do you want to be seen? Do you want to be seen as kind? Do you want to be seen as courageous? Do you want to be seen as empathetic or creative? What is it? And choose the top 3 things that you want to be seen as. You don't have to go around and tell people how they should see you. But you start on day 1 and you do a prayer for you to embody kindness. You do it privately. On day 2, you do a prayer for you to embody the second quality, kindness. On day 3, you do a prayer for you to embody courage or whatever it is. On day 4, you start on the first one again. And you go through 30 days cycling through it. They won't be able to see you in any other way. I did that. It stirs up stuff. I learned that here. You put your mind to it. Then everything that is standing in the way will rise up to be dealt with. They say it's just positive thinking. I wish. I'm getting as much from the quotes in the sidebar in this month's book as I am from the text itself. Like this one over here from Frank Lloyd Wright. The truth is more important than the facts. Another skill that I learned right here at the Center for Spiritual Living. I learned to acknowledge the facts, but to refuse to let them stop my progress or to thwart my creative expression or to believe less in myself than is what is appropriate. See, I learned at the Center for Spiritual Living to acknowledge evil and wrongdoing as very real experiences in life, but to refuse to let the fact of their existence distract me from the truth of being, which to me is that we are all created and united in oneness out of the same creative power, the same infinite power. Now, I know it doesn't make a lick of intellectual sense, but I do believe it. And it has become over time part of my vision for this world. And that's the point of a vision, to lift us up beyond the facts and take us to the promised land. Outside in the social hall where we turn in our giving intention, there's a 4-pager that describes next year. And in it are elements of the vision that animates this movement of ours across the country and the world. And I brought plates from the vision along with us. And I invite you to read this one with me together. We envision all people, all beings, and all life as expressions of God, and therefore we are drawn to learn about how we might treat each other as if we were holy. Whoa. And even though we struggle with getting that right, don't we? Even though we struggle with it, we know we cannot quit it. We're called to it. I was teaching a workshop in Atlanta about this very thing, talking about the demand on us to live in a loving way. And as we were talking about, one of the attendees in the workshop said, "But Edward, can't we just have somebody to hate on a little bit?" Surely there's somebody who is deserving of that hate? No. 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 How about this one? Together, if you will. We see a world in which each and every person lives in alignment with his or her highest spiritual principles, emphasizing unity with God and connection with each other, and therefore we do not think our religion is the only one, and neither do we think it's the right one for anyone. Which is why next year's theme is so exciting. One truth, many paths. And you can walk on several of them if you want. We don't know what the right way is. Neither do we have a conversion mission. Which is why probably we've never grown as a movement. Right? I mean, because we couldn't teach that if you stopped coming here, something terrible would happen to your immortal soul. I mean, I wish I could, but it wouldn't go over well. Right? Science of mind is not the truth. It's a path that people walk on for as long as it is comfortable and valuable. How about that? How about this? Together, we see a world in which together, I did this last service too. Here we go again. We see a world in which individually and collectively we are called to a higher state of consciousness and action. And therefore, we just simply cannot settle for being stuck in our conditioning. Once you open this window, it becomes very uncomfortable. You start to have divine discontent because the limitations of your conditioning will irritate you. Eventually, you know you're going to have to reach beyond every kind of limiting structure that so many people find comfort in. I'm going to have to think larger than my party, than my team, than my nationality, than my politics. You know, our friends in Kansas City, Center for Spiritual Living there, you can imagine the back and forth between the centers. I didn't start it. But I did post on their timeline. I said, let the affirmative prayer battle begin. There is only one power, and it prefers the giants. You can't do it, right? You want to, but you can't. I mean, nobody wins unless we all win. And isn't that odd? Like when people are in the boxing ring and they're in their corner and they're praying. I mean, what are they praying for? Dear Lord, let me beat the living heavens out of my opponent. Together, we envision humanity awaking to its spiritual magnificence and discovering the creative power of thought. And therefore, we are rediscovering, reacquainting ourselves with the importance of learning how to think and learning how to learn, seeing the value of that, and looking to see how many soul-numbing practices prevail in our culture, and stepping back from them more and more. Oh, so much soulless TV. And empty education systems. And so we realize nobody's going to educate us except we ourselves. We have to educate ourselves. We have to educate our children. We've got to realize and remember the importance of art and bring it back and speak up for music and talk in poetry and literature and bring it back to teach us how to think in metaphors and think in big arcs way beyond the regional confinements of small thinking. And we have to shake off the idea that we are a stupid and superstitious people. We are not. To shake off the idea that we must be or can be controlled with mob thinking and rumors of danger and endless danger. Or the idea that we are somehow born wicked. Or that love can be corrupt. Or that women are inferior. Or that this life is anything but sacred, sacred, sacred from the beginning through the middle to the end and beyond in every direction. And together, we envision a world in which we live and grow as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness of all life. And therefore, as you would expect, at Centers for Spiritual Living, there is a growing appreciation for our resources and this realization that this planet is very precious to us and that we are stewards of it. We're not just visiting here until one day we go to some heaven elsewhere. No. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. And as you would expect then at Centers for Spiritual Living, there's growing interest in being green, in recycling, in considering alternative power sources, and looking at our food system and compassionate treatment of animals and preserving nature and reducing our carbon imprint and addressing global warming as a real and present danger. And that is why, together, we envision a world where personal responsibility joins with social conscience in every area of the political, corporate, academic, and social sectors, providing sustainable structures to further the emerging global consciousness. Enough said. Right? See, because sometimes people will say that we're just a bunch of positive thinkers and we sit around visualizing a whole bunch of money. You know they say that. No. Centers for Spiritual Living is a contemplative order where we look into our very own souls so that we may act in the world from a whole different space. And oh my word, there is so much support for the other way. Act first and then contemplate. And finally, together, We envision a world where each and every person has enough food, a home, and a sense of belonging. Oh, imagine that. I mean, imagine that. Imagine a world in which we have no need for our 12 nonprofit partners because their services aren't needed. Nobody has to be placed in a home. Imagine. And until that is a reality, let us not give up neither hope, nor vision, nor trust, nor courage, nor the realization that the work we do personally is part of the solution. See, that is why I give to the Center for Spiritual Living. Every single year I write down my intention. And every single year I give more, whether or not I get a raise. Because it is the most important thing in my life. Now, you may have already completed your giving intention form and received the gift. We're aware that some people did it online. Some people mailed it in. So we have your name on will call. We'd love you to go to the table and pick up the gift, the mala bead gift that we've prepared for you, because we want you to feel our gratitude from ourselves to ourselves for this beautiful thing that we're doing together.